Welcome to Trail Manners, the podcast so dedicated to mountain trails and running that they broadcast out of a 78 Volkswagen bus in the mountains. Who does that? Eric and Joel are your hosts and will bring you the trail life as you may have not heard it before. You hear about everything from gear reviews, nutrition to keep you upright and moving forward, and they'll even bring guests into the bus for conversations that you won't hear anywhere else. It's time for some running adventures on a higher elevation. The old 78 Volkswagen bus is fired up and headed to the mountains. Here are your hosts for Trail Manners, proudly representing the 801 with their passion and love for the trails, Eric Manning and Joel Hatch.
Welcome to the Trail Manners Podcast, episode number 94. Today, Joel Hatch will be speaking on the phone with Gabe Joyes, fourth place finisher at this year's Hardrock 100. So if this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. The Trail Manners Podcast is produced every week for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at trailmanners.com. Come back often, and please feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Trail Manners. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get after it.
All right, so welcome to the Trail Manners Podcast. I'm your host, Joel Hatch, along with Eric Manning. This week on episode 91, we have the inventor of trail running, the fourth place finisher at the 2017 Hardrock 100, Gabe Joyes. Gabe, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. So last time we talked on the show was in episode 72 at the Park City Run Company. And at that time, you had come to town to run RUFA, so that's running up for air, if anybody doesn't know what that is, in preparation for Hardrock. Isn't that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. And at that time, you had said that, oh my gosh, I got into Hardrock, and you were just like silly, giddy, excited, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, obviously leading up to the race, you had mentioned that you had some trepidation a little bit just because of your training schedule was not going to allow for, say, big long training runs or, just the fact that you live in Lander and it was so stinking snowy, you weren't able to get up high. So how were you able to, get in not only the volume, but also the climbing as well? So what did your spring training look like?
It was tricky. In some ways, RUFA was sort of like the kickoff for my spring training, and so that was a great start. I think I got something like, I don't know, it was like 18,000 feet of climbing in 12 hours or something like that.
And that was at RUFA?
Put the hurt on, yeah, it was at RUFA, yeah. So that put the hurt on my quads pretty good. Kind of set the tone for the spring. My training was pretty good all through like February and through part of March. I did a lot of hill repeats and finding kind of the steepest stuff I could find in Sinks Canyon, which is kind of our closest mountain access we have here in Lander. And so I would just find some stinking steep hills and just hike up and down those things a lot to try to get as much vert as I could in each run.
So tell me a little bit about that. So Gabe, tell me a little bit about that. So
sure.
So I know from experience from doing your Sinks Canyon race that Sinks Canyon is really accessible to Lander. It's about 10 miles to southwest of Lander, roughly.
Yeah.
And
yep.
What's winter training like there in Sinks? Does it get a lot of foot traffic?
No, not a lot. I'd get a lot of first tracks for sure. It's really hit or miss. So like so many other canyons, we have like a sunny side and a shady side.
Right.
And the shady side like holds snow like forever. And so that always had like deep snowpack on it. And sometimes I could get pretty lucky there. The fat biking crowd is getting pretty into things over there, and they track out the trails pretty nicely. Not a lot of trail, but then I could run on top of what they did, and that was good. The sunny side of the canyon, it melts out pretty freaky fast in the winter.
Does it?
And so if there had like just been a big dump, it'd be challenging over there. But you can give it like a few days after snowfall, and you can usually find like some small sections of, dirt mixed in with a little bit of packed snow, stuff that you can stay on top of. And so it doesn't give you a lot of terrain to cover, but it's good terrain for hard rock training if you don't mind going up the same hill like over and over and over again.
Right. That sounds good. Now, also, you were the coach for the soccer team at the high school, right?
Yeah, that's when things got really tricky. And that started, I was in March or April or something like that. I think it was early March. Soccer started. Yeah, I coached the high school girls soccer team, which was super fun, but it definitely made training challenging. We had practice every day after school, and I wouldn't get home until, I don't know, almost 6 o'clock, so from 7:30 to 6, I was out doing work stuff.
Right.
And so that was challenging, and a lot of our road trips for games would be like ridiculously long drives. Like we would go and drive to like Cody on just like a Tuesday night, or we'd go drive down to some tiny town in southeast Wyoming. It'd be like a 5-hour drive for one game.
Yeah, I think that's the drawback of being the head coach for the Lander soccer team.
Yeah.
You guys are kind of like the middle of the state, but you still have to go, like I said, 3 or 4 hours. It's not like living in Salt Lake where you can just go 10 minutes down the road to the next high school.
Yeah, I wish we had that. So that was a real time suck. So I did a lot of running at like 5 a.m.
Right.
which was cold.
Yeah.
And that's just like right on like snowpack roads. Nothing glamorous about it at all.
No.
No, that's grinding it out for sure. And then, we had a lot of like really cold inversions all winter too. That was kind of trying to block that out of my memory. And then I would do a lot of like 8 o'clock at night runs where, we'd have dinner as a family and put my 2 kids to bed, and then off I'd go. I'd run for a couple hours.
Right. Now,
before going to bed.
Was Ty Drain still your coach at that time?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so did you guys kind of do your best to work through not only the weather issue, but then your travel schedule with the soccer team?
Yeah. So he was, really, he was just the ideal coach to work with, because he's been there, done that with just about everything I was doing.
Right.
He's dealt with the weather. He's coached. He teaches like I do, and so he really knew exactly what I was trying to juggle.
And he's done hard rock.
And he's done hard rock a few times.
Right.
While being a coach, like a high school track coach. So he sort of helped me thread the needle very nicely, where I feel like, it was hard for sure. Like my time was absolutely maxed out, but I didn't. And, my wife and kids still love me, I think. And I got it done. So
That's right. You did. So were you able to do any spring races besides, Rufa really wasn't a spring race. That was still kind of considered winter.
Yeah.
But during Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I got so lucky, and I got to do Quad Rock 50.
Oh, you did?
I got so lucky with that. So when I originally looked at my spring calendar, I just saw there's no way I was ever going to fit a race in, and I'd accepted that. That was fine. And then I was still, this is my first year coaching soccer, and I didn't quite understand how like the playoffs and stuff worked, but I found out halfway through pretty early on in the season, I guess it was. I found out that if we won our conference, we got to skip the regional qualifying tournament for state. And then I looked at what weekend that was, and it was the same weekend as Quad Rock. And so I kind of licked my chops there, and I pushed those ladies pretty hard to win our conference, so that I could have that weekend off and go to Quad Rock, and they got it done. They went undefeated in conference.
Did they really? That's awesome.
They did, yeah. I don't know if they knew I had my ulterior motives, but so Quad Rock was it was good. It was not the ideal race. I drove down to Fort Collins, which is like a 4-hour drive on a Friday night, and slept in the tent with my kids in somebody's backyard, and got up and did the race. And so it was not it was a fine race. It was okay, but I was not like in tip top shape or anything like that for it. But it was just nice to be able to have that little bit of competitiveness and run 50 miles with some other folks, and so it was good.
So how'd you end up doing in that race? Were you on the podium?
Yeah, I took third there.
Uh-oh.
So that was pretty nice to be able to have like a subpar racing situation and still pull off a pretty decent result.
Did they run that course around that horse? Is that horse tooth?
Yeah, yeah, around Horseshoe Reservoir in what is it? There's a state park there, something Lowry State
Yeah,
Park or
something like that. I did a race
something
there
like that.
years ago. Boy, they got a lot of climbing, like a lot of short, steep stuff
Yeah,
right
short
there in
steep.
that
That's
park.
kind of what it was, just up and down, short steep. Besides like the opening and the finishing section, take you through this like valley.
Right.
And it was really hot there. Like it felt like August.
Really?
We didn't have heat like that for like another month and a half after Quad Rock, but it was like in the mid 80s there during the race, and
Oh yeah, you
it
were
sort of
used
felt
to
like my
16
yeah, I
below.
was used to running like way cooler than that, so I sort of felt like my brain was melting during the second half of the run. Like it definitely affected me. The first half was great, cruising. The second half was like, whoa, I'm
Right.
hot. But I kept it together though and finished, and so that was good.
And then you guys, you had a soccer game after that. Did you girls? How'd they do in the state tournament then?
They did pretty good. They ended up taking fourth in the state, which
Wow, that's
is
awesome.
awesome, especially considering like the year before that, I think they were just about like last in the state, like 12th or something like that.
Whoa.
So they came a long way. So I was really really happy for them.
Yeah. So you're gonna do that again next year?
I believe so. Yep.
Oh, that'll be
I'd
good. You
sort of
guys
like to.
build on that success, huh?
Yeah, I'd like to commit to it to at least a few years if I'm going to do it. And so I got roped into it because there was a group of girls that I had coached when they were all like 10 and 11 and 12 years old. I coached like a youth co-ed team in Lander,
Oh yeah.
and and now those girls are on my high school team. And they pretty much like begged me to coach, and I was kind of a sucker for them because I'd already put in years of work into them back when they were youngsters.
Yeah.
So I'll at least see those girls through high school
Oh,
because I've known them for a long time.
that's really cool. That says a lot. I mean, to commit to them for 3 or 4 years, they'll get a lot out of that.
Yeah, I hope so. It definitely helps to have a little consistency there for a while
So
with
when
a
you
with a
were
team sport like that.
so when you were doing your training with the girls, did you jump into any conditioning stuff? Did you and Coach Ty talk about doing any of that?
No, I did. I played soccer with them a lot, which I think was actually really great. I'd get my agility work in, and I would get
Right.
sort of, I don't know, like kind of, I guess, stretched out, and I did with that. And I actually think playing a little bit of soccer, it does a lot to help keep me injury free. It keeps me moving laterally, it keeps the ankle strong, keeps your balance good. So not that I'm not gonna play with them a lot, but every day I did a little bit of something with the team.
Yeah.
And so as much as it was a time suck, I think it was also just kind of nice to be able to have a little extra movement around like that too. That I don't think it hurt me.
Right.
So
No, I think you hit it on the head. It definitely probably helped more than anything else. Like you said, instead of just moving in this very linear plane, soccer happens in all directions. So that
yep,
definitely reduces on the overuse injuries for sure. So, you
yeah,
guys had a super big winter like we did here in the Wasatch where it was cold, it was snowy, getting outside, you just had to do it. So were you solely hiking and running, or were you doing other things in the winter too, like cross country skiing, skate skiing?
yeah. I do a decent bit of skate skiing.
Okay.
I've really kind of discovered that in the last few years, and I love it. We have a little, I guess, like local Nordic center that I can ski at, but my favorite is that we have what's called the Continental Divide Snowmobile Trail in Wyoming, which is like hundreds of miles of like dirt roads that they groom
Wow.
for snowmobiles.
Right.
And so if I get the conditions right, I can go skate ski on that stuff. It's a little rough. It's not like being at Soldier Hollow or something.
Right.
But I can go and I can skate ski like 40 miles on a Saturday in the wilderness. It's amazing. So I kind of like that more than, AT skiing or anything like that. I find it's just kind of faster and more fun and a little bit of a better workout anyway. So
Less risky.
yeah, less risky too. Yeah, I get kind of scared of avalanches.
Yeah, I
So
think
yeah,
all should be a little scared of those things, but I think that's another thing that really helps, build that winter base and reduce those overuse injuries is being in a different plane because skate skiing, you're
yep.
constantly pushing off to the side. Are you a V1 or a V2 guy?
I try to mix it up.
Yeah.
And up until like a year or two ago, if you'd asked me that, I've been like, I don't even know what you mean. But I have a friend here that skied at Bozeman in college, and she's giving me some lessons and kind of hopefully my technique isn't like super atrocious. I don't know.
Uh, yeah, you
I
got to
try to
do it
do
a bunch,
whatever.
right?
What's that?
So you have to do it a bunch to get that technique down, or you just feel like you're out there floundering, huh?
You do, and I try really hard to like picture a graceful like Olympian I've seen on TV, and I have this mental image of what I look like, and I imagine that's probably not accurate.
Ah,
But I do my best with it. I have fun. It's not like super serious, and it's a great way to when it's just too snowy to really get meaningful running in. It's just fun.
right.
So good training.
Good. So after the quad rock, and after you girls came in fourth place in the state soccer tournament, what was your training like then? Because then you're kind of like what, 6, 7 weeks, almost 8 weeks away from the race.
Yeah. High kicked my butt then. It was a lot. I was, in the mountains basically every day, going up and down steep stuff. Lots of hiking too. I was getting used to using my poles more. I don't typically run with trekking poles,
Right.
but certainly they're very, very helpful for hard rock. So I was doing a lot of verts. I think I had 1 week where I got like the 33,000 feet of climbing, just like hard rock has. So,
Oh,
yeah, it was good. I tried hard to kind of get up high too, but it was pretty tough. I mean, it was still full on winter. We were still getting snow in the mountains in June too.
right.
So I did a lot of running and hiking on snow some days, which is okay. Yeah, it was a lot of that. I ended up taking one quick trip down to the Never Summer Mountains in northern Colorado,
Right.
which is just a gorgeous mountain range.
They all.
I did the Never Summer 100K there last year, and I remember there was this like alpine ridge that we ran on for a little bit, and I remember looking at it as I was racing, thinking like you could run this ridge like for miles and miles. And I kind of tucked it in the back of my mind as something I wanted to come back and do someday was go around this ridge longer than we did in the race. So I went down and ran that ridge, and it's just like a huge out and back because it was like mostly above 12,000 feet with you hit like a 13,000 foot peak as part of it and stuff. So I went down there.
Gabe, was that on an
And
established trail or was that just all kind of off trail scram?
that's mostly off trail.
Okay.
It was just hiking and running up and down lots of beautiful alpine meadows, and the mountains in Colorado was great. I mean, the mountains there, they look a little bit like the San Juans, like a similar sort of feel with
Right.
lots of grassy terrain. So it was great. That was a important weekend, I think, to go and do that. So
How
good, clean
close
fun.
how close was that to Hard Rock?
Boy, what was that? Maybe that was like a month out, something like that.
Okay. So then after that, so you got 4 weeks until race day. Were you able to then go down at all to have a look at the course?
No, I didn't. I really wanted to, and I almost pulled it off a couple times in spring. We almost went by there, like over spring break, and then I almost went down in June. But like the reality is, it's just a long drive,
Yeah.
and I just couldn't. I thought I was going to pull the trigger on it a couple times, but it just wouldn't work out for whatever reason. And so I never did go down there, which was. I don't know, not too big of a deal to me. Like I've been in the San Juans before. I know what those mountains are kind of all about. I'd done the Telluride Mountain Run several years back, and I used to live in that area for a very brief period. So that was okay. It was kind of fun having the course be a surprise. I kind of like that sometimes in races because then it's just like, every ridge you're climbing, it's just exciting because you want to see what's over the other side. So that was fun. It felt like an adventure as much as it did a race.
Right. So race day rolls around. You get into town. Did you get into town the week of the race, the day before the race?
Yeah, it was like 2 days before or something like that.
Okay. So what was town like?
It was kind of crazy there in Silverton. I mean, there was like runners everywhere, and I'd never been to Silverton when it was like that. It was so busy. But there was like people just going on runs all over the place, and you could be like driving down the main drag in Silverton, and like Killian ran across the street in front of them. So we're like, "Whoa, we saw Killian,"
Right.
So it was a fun scene, a lot of interesting people, a lot of cool people, all just piled in this one little goofy mountain town in the San Juan.
That's pretty cool. That would be fun to experience that, and just how all
it was great.
random superstar runners just kind of crossing the road.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the morning of the race. Were you like super nervous? Were you excited? Were you just like game face? Let's get this on.
I was super excited. I had just slept in my truck pretty close to the start, and like woke up nice and early and chowed a bunch of waffles, and I was just like, I was just kind of anxious for the thing to get started. I've been looking forward to that for a long, long time, and I surprisingly I wasn't too nervous, and I wasn't like I've heard a lot of people talk about just being scared out of their minds starting being in the starting line of Hardrock, and I wasn't really scared at all. I was just excited and happy to be there, and kind of ready to go, which is a great mental place to be in before something like that.
Yeah. What was your game plan for the race?
Definitely just to be super duper conservative. I talked to Scott Heine once out in the course, and I joked to him that I was like, the last thing I want is to be the new guy who goes and like lays on a cot and Telluride for 3 hours. I just want to make sure I absolutely avoided that situation. So I was pretty mellow. Really up until about mile 80. I just had kind of a nice run in the mountains and never pushed it too hard. Ty gave me pretty specific instructions. No racing until I got to Oscars, which is the big climb out of Telluride, and it's about mile 80. And so I was pretty tempted a couple times, like kind of chase people down and push it a little bit, but then I kind of always resisted and was like, no, you got a long way to go, just chill, just cruise, patience.
Right.
And enjoyed the day.
So let's talk a little bit about the like sections of the race. Tell me a little bit about the first 28, 30 miles. So that first big chunk, the Sherman aid station. How was that? Did you get caught in any way?
That was not there yet. The weather came a little bit later. It was dreamy. It was a beautiful day with kind of low hanging gray clouds that made the grass look ridiculously green, and started at a nice easy pace, and I just had a ton of fun, particularly in that first 30-ish miles or whatever it was. It was just kind of going up to some beautiful ridge and back down into a basin and back up again, and like the wildflowers were so thick I was almost tripping over them, and I actually got slightly off course a time or two because with the way the Hardrock course markers are, they're on these like little, I don't know, almost looks like someone straightened out an old clothes hanger or something like that, but they're like knee-high wire things that have a little like white and red flag on them, and then like a piece of orange ribbon if you're lucky. And they put them in like these flowers, and they're like the same height as the flowers and the same color as the flowers, and the trails are pretty faint. And I would get to these meadows and I'd look around and I go, where the heck do I go? I can't even see a course marker anywhere because they're blending in. So that was like very minorly stressful a time or two.
Right. So as a Hardrock rookie, how did you manage that? You not been on the course before. You didn't go down and do the pre-course. A lot of people go down and help mark the course, get to know the course.
Yeah.
So did you find it was hard to follow the course?
It a little bit.
I mean, minus the
You
wild.
know, that's yeah. It wasn't too bad. You know, if you run with your heads up, you know, it's fairly easy to follow. Any of the little missed sections of the trail I had, you know, I was not off trail for very long, and then I would kind of, you know, you'd kind of get the feeling pretty quick of like, hey, I should have seen a flag for the kind of train I'm in, and you know, start scanning about and be able to pick it out. So, like if you're the kind of runner who runs 10 at your feet a lot, like you'll get lost there for sure. But you know, my head was kind of up enjoying the scenery most of the time anyway, so it was pretty easy for the most part to keep
Gotcha.
an eye on things. And I've missed turns once or twice in a race before in the past, and it cost me dearly. And so I'm kind of hypersensitive to that, to always keep an eye on the trail now. Sort of don't want to make that same mistake twice.
Right. So you get into that Sherman aid station, which is mile 28. Do you remember what place you were at that time?
I don't even know exactly what place I was in. I was inside the top 10 by maybe a spot or two.
Right.
But I don't know. I tried not to even pay attention to that. It got spread out pretty quick, actually. The first climb was pretty clustered, but after the very first aid station in Cunningham at like mile 9.3 or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, like instantly it got spread out. And so for that whole first section, Sherman there at 28, I could see sometimes Scott Heine pretty far ahead of me.
Right.
And I knew Adam Campbell was somewhere behind me. And I kept on just kind of creeping closer and closer to Scott, and I passed him shortly after Cataract Lake on the way down to Sherman.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't pass anyone for quite a while after that. I didn't even see anybody until like Engineer Pass.
Wow.
So I did a lot of running by myself during the day. Like it was,
Yeah, you did.
yeah, it was sort of like it's almost had a slightly training run type feel, because I was just kind of out in the mountains, just running, enjoying, and
You
I
just
purposely didn't bring my phone with me to take pictures because I knew that would have been a problem for me.
got distracted.
Because I would have been whipping it out all the time. So yeah, it kind of had almost like a training run kind of feel.
And that may have taken some pressure off of trying to be like ultra fast, right? You're just out
Yeah,
having fun, enjoying the day. So, what point did you run into the weather? Did you run into any of the weather? Because we've talked to some people
I
that ran
did.
into some awful weather.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. So shortly, like before, as I've been approaching Sherman, like the thunder was just like rumbling and echoing everywhere. It was pretty ominous, and it was pretty obvious we were gonna get hit at some point. And then shortly after I left Sherman and was running up the road to Burroughs Park, the next aid station, and that's the last one before you go up Handy's Peak, it started to rain really hard.
Did it?
Rain and hail, and just it came down, and there was, you know, just almost a constant thunder. Lightning was striking every ridge and peak around me. You know, I was at a nice low spot on the road, so that wasn't really scary. But
Yeah.
I was thinking about those leaders who were ahead of me, and I could imagine they were probably on Handy's Peak, and I was like, oh man,
Huh.
glad I'm not where they are. I mean, there was just like streams of water and hail coming down the road. There was so much. And I actually saw a mudslide come down one of the mountains,
Whoa.
like right towards me for a little bit. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I've never actually seen a mudslide happening. But it was, yeah, it made this most bizarre sound. There's this sloshing, crunching sound. And I was like, that's not rain. What is that? And just started looking around and looked up, and I was like, whoa. And like you could see this whole like scree field just kind of like slurping down an old avalanche chute.
Huh.
And it wasn't moving too fast, thankfully.
Right.
It scared me pretty good at first when I saw it coming right towards me. I was like, whoa. But so I actually even just stopped and watched that thing for a couple of minutes. So I was like, what? I've always wanted to see a landslide happen. So I'm not going to blow my opportunity to watch it. So I just stood there for not too long, just for a minute or two, just to check it out.
Right. That's
It was
cool.
cool.
So
And then
were you prepared for the weather? Did you have like a legit rain jacket, or did you have like
yeah, I had a legit rain jacket.
right?
Yep. Which was great because if you were just out there like a Houdini or something,
Yeah,
you would have been a wet mess.
you've been hosed.
Um, yeah, you would have been hosed for sure. And the rain lightened up, and as I was going up towards Handy's, it was very light. And the lightning became much more. There's a lot more time between strikes.
Right.
But as I was going up this basin, I forget what it's called. Whatever the basin is that Handy's Peak is at the kind of the head of. Lightning would just kind of strike the ridges in different spots, and sometimes actually strike Handy's Peak. And
Wow.
there started to be like 5-10 minutes between strikes, and so I was kind of like, all right, I'll just kind of keep going. And there hadn't been any in a while, so I decided to just kind of keep going up the peak. And I was up at kind of right for the summit ridge. I think it was around 13,000 feet, and just this horrible crack of lightning just hit the top of Handy's as I was standing there, and I was like, crap, what do I do now? And so I kind of thought about going back down, which just was totally unacceptable. And then I thought about staying put at 13,000, which felt really stupid.
Right.
So then I just went for it and went over the top of that thing as fast as I could, which was hard, of course.
Well, yeah.
I'd never climbed a 14er before, so my first 14er was like a VO2 max workout or something. I'd been really careful with my heart rate all day and all the climbs, just keeping it in check, going as slow as I had to go. But for that 1,000 feet or whatever it was, some of the Handies, I definitely kind of just went for it. Didn't even stop at the top, just ran right off. I've had a couple close calls with lightning before, and I wanted nothing to do with that again. And then ran right down the other side in the American Basin. And then there was a little more drizzle from there, but otherwise that was the ugly weather of the day.
Right.
And it wasn't, I don't know, I kind of like bad weather. I think it's kind of exciting. I almost went into meteorology actually when I was in college.
Really?
So I kind of nerd out on that stuff. And so to be out there in the hail and lightning, I think it's interesting and fun.
That's
so
right on. So you get over Handy's, without getting singed, and then you're making your way over to basically the halfway point, which is Ouray this year.
Yeah.
Right? So what was that like coming into that? Because at that point, I was following along, and I was, I didn't know if you could feel it, but I was cheering you on from the Wasatch Front.
I felt it.
Oh, because at times, especially when because you guys had those spot trackers on, which was so cool.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they're working fairly accurate most of the time. And you could see how close other people were to you. And at that point, you and Iker were really close to each other. And man, I was cheering on hard. It's like, man, you were so close to those front runners. And yeah, I hope you felt that love and the enthusiasm from my computer.
I know I did.
So you get halfway, you get to Ouray. What happens there? You eat a whole bunch, you change your clothes, change your shoes. You got a big crew waiting for you. What's going on there?
Ouray was awesome. I had my whole crew was there. My parents were there with my kids. And so getting to Ouray was kind of fun. It felt like almost like a party there.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know this, but before I got to Ouray, I guess it sort of felt like a funeral there. There was like my buddy Chris Price was laying in a tent, Iker was laying in a tent, and like people who were coming through weren't feeling very good apparently.
Right.
And I came into Ouray feeling great. Like I was having a great time. Really happy to my crew, and I was really happy to get some dry socks and shoes. They had been wet the entire day, and my feet don't typically handle that real well, so it was like dry shoes was amazing. Got some food in me, picked up a pacer, and I left. And I think that was the first time all day I knew which place I was in, and I was in like 5th or 6th because I think Caroline was still ahead of me somewhere.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty cool, like to sort of not even be in like race mode and just like pass a bunch of people there in Ouray was that was kind of like a treat. I didn't even know it. I didn't even know they were laying in the tent. So one of my crew was like, just so you know, there's like some guys laying behind you and they don't look so good. So if you hustle out of here, you'll be ahead of them. I was like, oh, well, how about that?
Yeah, right on.
So
what'd you eat at Ouray? What was the thing that you were looking forward to the most coming into town? You're like, oh, give me that burrito. What was it?
No, I didn't eat much at Ouray, but back at Grouse, which was after Handy's.
Right.
One of my classics is I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a slice of extra sharp cheddar cheese in the middle.
Say what? Really?
It's so good. It's like I used to, back when I was, I don't know, like way young, like, kindergarten or whatever. That's how I always liked my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. As I grew up in Wisconsin, so it just seemed natural to put cheese on it. Everything to me growing up. And so like it's sort of like this like nostalgic comfort food for me, and it's like salty and fatty and yummy. And so I like to have like at least one of those during a 100-mile race. So I had that back at Grouse.
Did you eat a whole one at Grouse?
Oh yeah, I ate the whole thing. Yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. So
it was really good, and I had a real nice sharp cheddar in there, so that makes it even better.
Gives you a little pep.
Totally, and maybe that's why I came into Ouray so happy. So I was still digesting that creation.
All the pictures I saw of you, basically from Ouray on, you were just happy as all could be, or at least you gave the persona of being really happy because you were smiling.
I really was,
and your body you could tell from your body language that you were enjoying yourself and you were moving well through the mountains.
Yeah, I was. This might sound kind of dumb, but I was sort of like, how could you not be having fun out here? Like it was like the most beautiful mountains there are to run in. The San Juans are like a trail runner's paradise.
Right.
And I literally won the lottery to get in. And so I guess I was just running like so full of gratitude. Was just so happy to be there and so happy to be a part of it after years and years of waiting and like some pretty heinous spring training. And so I was legitimately happy about the whole time. I had one little rough patch coming up Engineer Pass where I felt like the altitude was getting to me a little bit, and
right.
I just hiked a lot, but I was never I wasn't out there moping or anything. Other than that, I really did feel good the whole time, and I had a great time with my pacers. I had a friend Amanda Taglioli pace me from Ouray to Telluride, and she won Bighorn 100 this year.
Mm-hmm.
A super strong runner herself, so we had a great time. And that's actually, so after Ouray, the racing got really fun because Iker was laying in a tent in Ouray, but then as we're going up Camp Bird Road, it wasn't too long before he came just flying past me. He came out with a vengeance. I was like, whoa, I'm not chasing him. I was just hiking, I think, and he came running past us hard. And then when we got to the governor's aid station, he was just sitting there again, looking pretty cooked. And so man, I passed him again, and then he ended up following us out of the aid station, and we hiked up Kroger's together. And then he ditched me again, going down to Telluride. He just flew. It was pretty impressive. He flew from Virginia's Pass and Kroger's Canteen down to Telluride.
Right.
But that whole section, I was not chasing. I was just having fun, hiking and running, enjoying and taking care of myself, and it was great.
I saw that you said you had a mantra for the race. It was What was that?
Patience, patience, patience.
I think that really paid off for you.
I think so too. I've never been on my feet that long, running.
Right.
And I knew I've had some success in 100K races that take 10, 11 hours or whatever they take.
Right.
And that's a lot shorter than 27 hours. And
True.
So I've kind of had to remind myself you can't go out at 100K pace. This is a different can of worms, be patient and take it easy and save something for the end.
Right.
So I would kind of remind myself all the time, just be patient, patience, patience, patience. You'll be all right. You'll have your time to run later. Yeah, it did work out. I had running legs all the way to the end. So that was
Did you? Wow.
pleasant. Yep.
That's awesome. That says a lot. But I'm glad you mentioned legs because I think a lot of people when they see a picture of you, either they think, okay, he's kind of your typical ultra runner, kind of short and wispy. But if they're acute observers, they'll notice those tree trunks that you've got for legs. And
Right.
one of my friends was down in Silverton for the race, and that was the first thing he commented to me. He goes, "Dude has got some quads on him." I think that those big old quads certainly came into play for this, and then that mantra really did help you to the end. So
Yeah.
you get the Telluride at that point, and so you're kind of sitting in fourth or fifth place at that time.
I think Telluride I was fifth because Iker was ahead of me in fourth at that point because we had passed Port Caroline was so lost below Virginia's.
Right.
It was just the saddest thing. You kind of stay on this ridge after Virginia's for a little bit, and you could like look way down into this basin, and you could see her headlamp and her pacer's headlamp, and they were just like spinning in circles, and they were just these little dots way down there, and it was like, oh, they're not where they're supposed to be, and they were just so far out. There's nothing you couldn't even yell to them. They're way off course. So that was kind of heartbreaking. But so that's why I got past Caroline. And then Iker and I were both down in Telluride at the same time. And he left just before me, and then I picked up my wife Jenny as a pacer.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a super strong runner too. She took third at Bighorn 50 this spring. That was the other challenge of the spring, is Jenny was all gung ho about Bighorn 50, which is in mid-June.
Right.
So her trying to train for that at the same time as me trying to train for Hardrock, coaching soccer, it was crazy. But anyways, so Jenny and I started hiking up the Bear Creek Trail, the long climb to Oscar's Pass, like 4,500 feet up or whatever it is.
Oof.
Yeah, and God, we just had a great time. We just kind of hiked hard. We didn't even run much of that climb at all. It's like, I don't know. Parts of it are pretty steep, parts of it are pretty mellow, but knowing that, again, it's just like a long climb, patience. And, we could just see Iker and his pacer ahead of us for basically the whole climb. They kept on, like, looking back to see where we are, and we're just, like, laughing and having a good time. And, there was an awesome, like, half moon rise that just, like, lit up everything. It was super cool.
Cool.
Super cool. And then when we got up to Oscars, we were only a minute or two behind Iker.
Right.
And, I was like, all right, finally, it's go time. Let's do this. And I absolutely love a good technical downhill. And that Oscars pass, it's very technical, but it was even more fun because some of the mountains there during the afternoon thunderstorms had gotten like a ton of hail. I saw one mountain that looked like it was almost like in the middle of winter. There was so much hail on it.
Really?
And so like all like the rocks and stuff were kind of filled in with hail in between, which actually I think probably made for faster descending.
Right.
And so we were able to kind of like slip and slide and run and jump and do all those kind of fun things running downhill. So just right after Oscars Pass, we passed Iker and got down to Chapman Gulch, the next aid station there, and that was, I don't want to say I only saw Iker behind me one other time after that, but put a little bit of a gap on him after that. And so that was just exciting and fun because I'd been running by Iker for hours and hours. He's a runner I have a whole lot of respect for. He's had some amazing results in the past, and so it was kind of fun to race him.
So after you passed Iker, and that was kind of like when your coach Ty Draney kind of gave you that permission. Okay, it's guns blazing time.
Yep.
And you've got the perfect pacer, your wife, right? And she's fit as a fiddle for getting prepared for the Bighorn 50. So at that point, were you like, all right, let's do it. Let's just put our head down and go? Or were you kind of like, okay, I'm going to race, but I'm still having the best time ever?
It was a little bit of both, for sure. And I actually picked up a new pacer at Chapman.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Right. Yep, I picked up a new pacer there. My friend Evan Raimondo, he's another super strong runner. He took second in some 50 this spring in Arizona. I can't remember which one. But we've done lots of adventures together and stuff, and just had a good time. So it was definitely like push a little bit harder, but we certainly enjoyed ourselves. Like we can't run in the mountains without enjoying ourselves really in that kind of terrain.
Right.
So we pushed as hard as we could up Grant Swamp, and that thing's a beast though. That was hard.
Was it?
Yeah, it's like one step up and you like slide down another step.
Oh.
It was like climbing a mountain of quicksand, sort of how it felt. So that was hard. So it was nice to have another good strong pacer to help me up that. And so we weren't like blazingly fast up any of that stuff. But when we got to the top of Grant Swamp Pass, we looked back down, we could see Iker and his pacer just starting to make that climb, and I was like, "Ooh, they're too close."
Right.
And so then running down to Island Lake and down to KT, that's where we really hit it hard there. That was like full guns blazing, like just absolutely hit that downhill really hard. It was super fun because that's a pretty good trail for running downhill.
Right.
So that was awesome. Made it to the KT Mile 89 aid station shortly after the sun was just coming up. And so from there was only 11 miles to go. And I definitely tried to push hard there. I was getting a little bit sleepy by that point.
Right.
The sun coming up does not seem to help me with the whole sleep deprivation thing. I was a little bit tired, but it was okay.
Right.
So we hiked up that last climb. It was pretty good. Didn't really see anybody else, and hit that last descent pretty hard. And then at Mineral Creek, my wife Jenny picked me up again, and she paced me into the finish and cracked the whip pretty hard and made me like run up every little climb on the road.
That girl. That's awesome.
Yeah, she did. She had no mercy. She's good.
So you pretty much knew at KT you had, you weren't going to be passed at that point, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm always a little paranoid actually. So again, with that Never Summer 100K I did last year, I led that race for like hours and hours and hours. I didn't see anybody, and I got a little bit jaded and maybe a little complacent towards the end. And a guy named Chris Shirk, he won Wasatch 100 a couple of years ago.
Right.
He like came up behind me when there was like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 miles to go. It was like the biggest oh crap racing moment of my life. And I ended up having to like sprint with him the last 2 miles to the finish, and I ended up finishing just a couple minutes ahead of him. But like that was sort of a very stressful and like physically painful experience running that hard at the end. And so I definitely had a little bit of a paranoia. I was like, Iker's super fast. Like I could chase me down, or what if somebody else is coming? There's a whole bunch of super talented runners behind me charging, I'm sure. Like,
well, sure.
And so I was sort of like, I kept looking over my shoulder every now and then, but it never took the foot off the gas. That's for sure.
That's cool.
And didn't want to take anything for granted. And I knew Joe Grant was pretty darn far ahead of me. I figured he was out of reach unless he like had something horrible happen to him. So it wasn't so much like trying to chase him, but it was like, all right, let's just keep moving so no one can come and catch me.
Right. So what was it like coming down, the street, knowing that, okay, I've got 4th place locked up. I just basically had the race of my life. So walk us through that a little bit.
Oh man, it was just awesome. Like the whole race was fun, from start to finish. And so, it just finished feeling really good. Just, it just feels amazing to be like, yeah, I executed the race I wanted to. I had the fitness I wanted to. I had all the wonderful support of my family and friends around me. Like I had my 5-year-old Ella run with me to the finish as well, which was super fun. She paced me into like every aid station. She'd wait like 100 meters from the aid station and run with me into them. So she went with me to the finish too, and it just felt amazing. It was just fun. sometimes, when you like look forward to something for so long and you build up in your mind and see this like amazing thing, like you can often get let down.
Right.
And that was not Hard Rock for me. It kind of lived up to every expectation I had that's been building in my mind for years and years and years. It was a dream come true. So I just hope I get to do it again someday.
Yeah, that was
Hopefully the lottery gods are kind to me again.
That was going to be another question. Are you going to put in for next year?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But you could be the true hard rocker where you get both directions, right?
Yeah, that's brutal, right? You can't be a true hard rocker until you've done it twice. It's like, man, I don't know if I can win the lottery again. Like, yeah, I will definitely put in.
You'll get lucky.
I hope so.
For sure. All right, so let's take care of some details. Let's talk about your nutrition. So we talked a little bit. PBJ and sharp cheddar was your go-to for the first third. But what were you eating in between the aid stations? What kept you going?
I mostly just ate a whole bunch of honey stinger waffles. I particularly am fond of their gluten-free salted caramel waffle. I can eat those for days. I don't ever get tired of them. They have a little bit extra saltiness in them.
Right.
They're awesome. So I ate sort of an absurd amount of those. And then I drink the Scratch exercise hydration mix all day as well. And that's another one of those things that has enough salt in it that I don't get burned out of it at all.
Right.
I drink Scratch the entire race. I'm not sure I ever had a drink of just plain water. Maybe I did once.
Right. I like how easy Scratch is to mix in your bottle because those little to-go packets are just so money, so easy to carry with you or having a drop bag.
Totally. I used to do a lot of gels, and Scratch has killed that for me. I find that I don't even need the gels. I don't want them.
Right.
I'm just happy to drink Scratch and eat waffles, and that is the vast majority of my calories during a race. Certainly in any training run, that's just pretty much all I take with me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so besides the PB&J and the sharp cheddar, what else were you crushing at the aid stations?
At some of the aid stations, I was having some mac and cheese.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, it was real good.
I mean, come on, anything. I guess the reoccurring theme here is you're going to have cheese.
Yep, I'm going to have cheese.
You're going to have
sure. So I did, I would have mac and cheese with Mountain Dew.
Oh, really?
That was
Mountain Dew.
Delicious. Yeah, and I hate soda. Like, I generally, I never drink soda except for during 100 milers. That's like my time to binge on Mountain Dew. And it seems to just go down easy, and I desperately kind of need that caffeine at night. I sometimes have a hard time with the whole sleepiness thing. Even if, my legs feel good, I'll just want to lay down and take a nap.
Right.
So that's always one of my fears with 100 milers. And so, I guess it was at Telluride and Chapman. I just sat for a minute or two and pounded as much mac and cheese as I could and chugged a bunch of Mountain Dew. I even put Mountain Dew in one of my soft flasks.
Oh, my goodness.
Took it with me and just drank Mountain Dew while running. That was pretty cool. And that was, nutritionally, that was it. I'm not sure. Maybe I had I had some pretty awesome honey mustard pretzels too in one of my drop bags.
Oh
gosh, those hit the spot.
Nice.
They're real good.
A little salty.
Yeah.
Harvey.
Just that strong honey mustard flavor to them. They were great.
Right on.
Those were good. And I think that was it. I think that's all I ate.
So what were you eating the days after the race? Did you crave anything? Did you crush the buffet line?
I crushed the buffet line. The day after the race, my appetite was only pretty moderate. I was eating, but not a lot. But then so I guess I finished on Saturday morning. So they're the rest of that day on Saturday, I didn't eat a ton. I just kind of nibbled on stuff.
Right.
But then Sunday, when there was the breakfast, and they had all the eggs and the sausage and the fruit and this awesome salsa, I hit that hard. I ate sort of a disgusting amount. So that was really good.
That's awesome. So now tell us a little bit about the gear that you used. So start off, what sort of shoes were you running in?
Sure. I all spring and summer I've been using the Salomon S-Sense Ultra.
Okay.
And those were working wonderfully for me. when Ty kicked my butt in June, my feet kind of swelled up kind of a lot, and I was a little bit in between sizes, which was kind of like driving me nuts. I don't like a shoe feeling sloppy at all. Like, I can't handle that.
Right.
When I'm trying to hit downhill hard. And so, like, the size I'd been wearing all spring wasn't really working for me. So I was like, I kind of needed something else. And the Salma just came out with the Sense Vibe,
Okay.
which is very similar to the Sense Ultra, but it just, I don't know, it just fits slightly different, maybe even a touch more snug or something like that. So I ended up wearing the Sense Vibe up until year A, so mile 56 or whatever, and then going back to the Sense Ultra for the finish. And they were great. My feet felt good, other than I'm going to lose most of my toenails. My first two came off today. And I think that was more just like when you have 33,000 feet of descent, that's just kind of what happened.
Right.
Because I don't typically have problems losing toenails, but I'm going to lose most of them. So I wear those on my feet, and I would wear them again. They were great.
So did your feet take a beating just because they were wet for most of the race?
Yeah, the wet feet thing was really rough. Like, usually, like, my feet are like totally pruned out after like a 10-minute shower. Like, it's not good.
Right.
So I was like thinking about 20 or 30 hours of wet feet. I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna die. So the one trick I did that was super duper helpful that I read on some website was I took some Joshua Tree climbing cells, which is like this beeswax oil mixture that I guess climbers put on their hands, and I like lathered my feet up with that so hard, and the skin kind of absorbs it and helps like waterproof your skin a little bit and toughen them up.
Okay.
Right
on.
And that was kind of a lifesaver, I think, because I never had like my feet split open or anything like that. Can happen when they're wet. So that stuff with some shoes that drained pretty good, and my feet survived. They weren't pretty when it was over, but it was okay.
Right on. So all the pictures I saw, you had shorts on. Did you ever change into some tights during the night, or was it warm enough for you to have shorts on?
It was a pretty warm night, actually. Like, for most of the night, I just wore like a t-shirt and a long sleeve shirt over it, and that was it.
Wow.
When we'd get up higher, I'd put on some thin gloves. I think once I like put a buffer on my neck. But like, I remember coming down in Telluride and just with my long sleeve t-shirt on, just sweating. I don't know what the temperature was, but it wasn't that cold.
Right.
I was expecting much, much worse. And I mean, it was pretty comfortable running weather. I would guess it was probably, like in the 50s, which by my standards is pretty darn warm.
Yeah, it is for sure. So were you running in some Salomon, like a race kit, like their shorts and their shirt? And did you have a Salomon pack on as well?
I was wearing some Salomon shorts, and I had a couple Arc'teryx shirts that I was wearing.
Okay.
And then my rain jacket was also from Arc'teryx, and then my pack was a Salomon pack.
Was it one of the new ones?
Yeah, one of the new ones. Those packs are great. Oh my goodness, they're so comfortable, and they just like stretch to fit whatever you want. And I put a little strap on, I attached a little stretchy strap to it so I could hook my trekking poles on there too.
Right.
A few times. So yeah, my gear works real well, which is nice. You know what they say, good gear is good. So it's nice when you're out there that long.
Yeah, it is. So looking back on the race, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I've thought about that a lot. Stayed on trail a little bit better those couple times. I'm not sure how I could have avoided that, but certainly that'd be nice to not like miss any turns or anything like that. It didn't cost me a lot of time, but still. It's hard. Some of the climbs I went up, I felt like I was climbing very slow.
Right.
Because I was trying really hard to keep my heart rate in check. I wasn't wearing like a heart rate monitor or anything like that, but I just, particularly when I'm at like high altitude, like my legs will feel good, and my lungs will feel good, and my heart will just be beating out of control.
Right.
And that's not sustainable. Something bad will happen if I let that keep going.
Right.
And so some of those climbs, like I look back and I'm like, man, could I have done those a little bit harder? I don't know. Like, I think I was able to run really well at the end because I was like patient on those climbs, but makes me wonder if maybe I could have given a little bit more a little earlier. It's hard to say though. I definitely felt like the high altitude affected me a little bit. I didn't have a lot of chance to get up high before Hard Rock, so I was trying to be sensitive to that. So otherwise, there's not a lot I'd change. I guess I would just run faster,
So if you get in next year, are you going to get a hypoxia tent?
No, I won't do that.
No?
Hopefully there won't. No. Hopefully it just wouldn't be like 400% of average snowfall here, and I'd be in better shape. I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah, that was sort of like worst case scenario snow year, and I don't like going out in my AT skis very much. I'm not a very good skier, and I'm scared, and so. I don't know. I guess maybe that'd be the one change I'd have in real preparation is I would just get up high a lot sooner. And I had plans of like doing like a fast packing trip too before Hard Rock and going and just like just hanging out at 12,000 feet for a few days kind of thing.
Right.
But I never got to do that because I would have had to do it on skis.
You still would right now, almost too.
There's still quite a bit up there. It's more reasonable now. Like you can get around. I was just up high a little bit yesterday, and I was like, okay, I can work with this.
Right on.
So yeah, I think that'd be my only adjustment. But that's just, of course, that's just the way it goes.
Right.
Is get a little bit more thin air in my lungs before the race.
So how have you recovered from the race?
Like really, really well.
Yeah.
We planned it out, I think, kind of wisely, we booked flights from Denver to Wisconsin the Monday after Hard Rock. That's where both Jenny and I grew up.
Right.
And so we drove to Denver, did a red-eye flight. That was not smart. But they're so much cheaper, So, got up at 4:30 or whatever on Monday. That hurt. And flew to Wisconsin. And I didn't even bring running shoes with me because I knew I'd be too tempted. And so I hung out in Wisconsin for a week with family and, again, ate a lot of cheese and did that sort of thing and just kind of hung out. And, the soreness and stuff went away fast. I was able to sleep a lot. I had grandparents there to watch kids while I slept in till 8:30. And,
oh, my.
Yeah, I know. It was pretty serious. So, yeah, I was going and getting 9 hours of sleep at night at least, and so the recovery was pretty good. I think my quads were more sore after Rufa than they were after Hard Rock, I think.
Right.
So not bad. So I just started kind of easing into running this week. I just kind of went up a little bit higher yesterday for the first time, and it's got a little bit of an ache or whatever here or there, but it's all things that are manageable. Nothing scary. Legs feel good. Mind feels great and excited to get back after it again. So,
yeah. So speaking of getting back after it, what's next for you?
I was able to get a spot in Run Rabbit Run 100 in September, which is down in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. So that'll be fun to go give that one a shot. Lots of fast runners there and much more runnable course.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a runner's course for sure.
Yeah, that'll be. That's I think what I'll try to focus on here the next couple of weeks, because I did so much hiking uphill this spring and summer that my uphill running legs aren't maybe quite where I want them to be. And usually I consider myself a pretty strong uphill runner, but I think I need to kind of get back into that a little bit. I mean, that race still has 20,000 feet of climbing or something like that, so it's not like it's flat.
No, but it's no Hard Rock.
No, it's no Hard Rock, that's for sure. And so it'll be a lot faster, and hopefully I can make the switch there pretty good.
Well, I think you got a good base from the last, 2 or 3 years of some dedicated training, especially with Coach Ty helping you out. So that's just an easy switch just to start focusing on that quality work, because the base is there.
Yeah.
Like Coach Ty says, you respected the process, and your mantra is patience, patience, patience. You got everything going for you. All you got to do is just, like you said, run a little faster now.
Yeah, run a little faster and, just execute another good race day and have fun out there. So that's what I'll be trying to do it, like you said, run rabbit, run snow, hard rock in a few different ways. Like hard rock was like a dream race for me. I've been looking for it forever, and those mountains around Steamboat are beautiful in their own way as well. So I'll have to just go down there and make sure I appreciate where I am and again run with gratitude and have fun and then I think it'll be a good day then no matter what happens.
And so will that be it for the year, or are you going to shut it down after Run Rabbit Run?
But that'll probably be it. I can't imagine what would come up unless I had some interesting opportunity or something. I don't know. I have nothing else planned except for hopefully I love doing a little bit of fall, like high altitude mountain running here. I love getting up in the winds in fall when there's like the bugs are gone, there's not as much snow.
Right.
So I'll do that before taking a little bit of break, probably in October or November or something like that.
That is the best time to run, is in the fall. Holy cow.
Oh, it's so good. I just love fall in the mountains so much.
It's the best.
So I'll still, often what I do is I do fun runs like that until the big first mountain snowstorm hits, and then I say, okay, time for a break.
Right.
So I'll do that, and then do some family camping and rest up and dream big for next year.
Yeah, so speaking of next year, you got anything on the plate that you are going to do other than become a true hard rocker and do the other direction?
Oh, man, yeah, I'd love to do a hard rock. I tend to get really big eyes, and there's a lot of things that look really kind of fun to me. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know. There's way too many things that look fun. I just saw Tushers, all the pictures from Tushers last week, and that looks super fun. But I don't know. I definitely would like to do some more 100-mile races. I really like the 100K, 100-mile kind of distance. I sort of feel like that's my jam.
Right.
And so looking to see what my options are for there. It's tough traveling from Wyoming to lots of different places.
Right.
It's expensive and it takes a lot of time, and so I have to kind of pick and choose pretty carefully. I can't just kind of go and race on a whim every weekend I want, like maybe folks who live in more populated areas. But so we'll see. I have to kind of digest that a little bit, maybe get through the season first and see what comes up.
That sounds good. Well, Gabe, thanks for getting on the phone and talking with us today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for calling.
And again, your performance, our hard rock, was super inspiring. Just because we know you personally, and it was awesome to see that your consistency throughout the day and how it paid off. And I think that you've had a really good year so far, and I know that you're going to just get down to Run Rabbit Run and have, like you said, just another fun day in the mountains.
Thanks so much. Thanks. It's all been super fun. Thanks for your support, too.
Yeah, anytime. And again, folks, if you want, make sure that you follow along Gabe's progress at Run Rabbit Run, because they have a pretty good race tracker. And I think iRunFar will be there as well. So again, Gabe, thanks for calling in, and we'll hopefully meet up and talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Joel.
Thank you for listening to the Trail Manners podcast. We'd like to thank Gabe Joyes, the founder of Trail Running, for joining us today. You can check out more of Gabe at the links in the show notes. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Trail Manners, or swing by our website at trailmanners.com. There you can hit us on the store page, get some swag and rights, or hit us up on the contact page. Let us know what you want to see, who you want to hear, or if you would like to be on the show. Until next time, this is Eric Manning with Joel Hatch reminding you, you don't get what you wish for, you get what you work for. Now go get it.